things are gonna get confusing this week. I don't think it's a 1 star, I don't think it's a 5 star, it's somewhere in the middle, but I don't know where in the middle. Why are you so cruel to your readers and why do you do this? Hi everyone, it's me. Welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be doing one of those reading vlogs where I read the highest rated book on my physical TBR as well as the lowest book on my physical TBR. I have done a few of these types of videos in the past, but realized I haven't done one in a very long time. And I do love these sorts of experiments where you read two books that are so vastly different on the rating scale and to see if you agree with everyone else's ratings or if you don't agree. So these are always really fun to do, super straightforward, so we can just get straight into it. But we'll start with lowest rated book. This one has a 3.48 rating, which I think is quite low on the scale. I feel like most books, for whatever reason, fall between the 3.8 to 4 star average rating on Goodreads from what I've seen from at least the books that I typically read. So with a 3.48 rating, we actually have, can you guess what book it is? You probably can guess because I've probably put the book cover on the thumbnail for this video, but that is Lightbreakers by Gabel. Now this is a book that I obviously got from Book of the Month, and so that's really the only place I have heard or seen of this book. Like, I literally have not seen anyone else read this book. The amount of ratings on Goodreads for this one is actually 3,999 ratings. So there aren't that many ratings on Goodreads. So I'm really curious to read this. It is always interesting diving into a book that you literally have no preconceived feelings of how you're actually gonna like a book or dislike a book, because I literally, like, no one in my circles has read this. So I'm definitely curious to see where this one goes. So that is the lowest one that we're going to be reading this week. And then in terms of the highest, this one actually has 103,725 ratings. So definitely a popular read. It is also part of a series, and it also has a 4.77 average rating on Goodreads, which is insane to me because a couple months back when I was reading Words of Radiance, I pointed out that that book was currently the highest rated book on Goodreads, and that had a 4.76 rating. So the fact that this book that we're about to pull from the TBR has a 4.77 rating, has literally beat the record of Words of Radiance, is insane. And that book is none other than, oh my god, I'm so excited for this, Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. I clearly, like you guys know, I love this series so much, and I've heard nothing but good things about this one. I feel like most people say this is a masterpiece, it's perfect, it's the best book in the series, and for me, after reading like Morning Star, I'm like, how can it get better than Morning Star? Genuinely, how? So needless to say, really excited to read Lightbringer, and then I'm gonna be caught up in the series, which is kind of bittersweet because I want more books to read in the series, and I know Pierce Brown is currently writing the next and final book to this series, but that's not out yet. So once I finish this one, I'm gonna have to wait alongside the rest of you guys who are currently waiting. We're gonna have to wait together for the last book to come out, but oh my gosh, I'm so excited to read this one. Interestingly enough, both of these books that we've pulled to read this week are sort of based in sci-fi, but where Lightbringer definitely takes a more fantastical fantasy approach to sci-fi, Lightbreakers takes a more literary fiction route. They also have very similar names, which I'm finding a little hilarious. I feel like I'm gonna get them mixed up in this reading vlog. Like, are we talking about Lightbreakers here or Lightbringer here? I don't know. Things are gonna get confusing this week. But I do want to give the lowest rated book the best chance it has. So we're gonna do Lightbringer second. We're gonna save this one and we're gonna do Lightbreakers first. Oh my god, I can't believe that these titles are literally the same. Gonna give this one a chance. Gonna read this one first. Okay, Lightbreakers by Gabel. This one has actually a really interesting premise, and that's why I decided to pick this book up when I saw it on Book of the Month. But the whole tagline of this one is, what would you give to relive the past? And I love a story that plays with memory and time, and this one definitely plays with both of those things. We follow Maya and Noah, who are married. Maya is an artist artist and Noah is a quantum physicist. And so they both share this curiosity about the world, but in their different ways. They do have some things that they have tried to bury in the past though. Noah in the past had a previous wife, and with his previous wife had a kid with her that passed away. So one day when Noah gets invited by this project that is trying to research diving back in time travel and all of that, he jumps at the opportunity because he wants to use this chance to go back, relive his memories with his child who passed away, and just like close all of these unresolved things that he still feels in his heart. And then at the same time, Maya, the wife, also starts getting involved in this project, but instead she returns to her own past where she was living in Japan and had a formative lover there who once shattered her heart. And so as our two characters both go on through these different journeys into their past, they start to struggle with trying to find the balance between holding on to something versus letting something go. There are tensions between the past and the present, and it also says new information emerges that the experiments might not be what they seem. So this is described as a heart-achingly moving novel. It explores how to love in a world where time is both a healer and a thief, and it plumbs the mysteries of human connection. So yeah, while this one has definitely a sci-fi element with the research, the time travel, all of that, it takes more of a literary character-driven approach, more of a study on humanity and, you know, our feelings, memories, and all of that. So I feel like this sounds like an incredible premise. So I'm curious to see why, I guess, other people didn't feel like this lived up to their expectations. But let's get into Lightbreakers, not Lightbringer, and let's just read. Page 50, and I'm actually really liking this so far. I think immediately the writing style hit me. It's very beautiful. It feels like art itself in its own way, which I think really suits the story because we're following these two characters. One of them is an actual artist and the other one is a scientist, but I feel like they both just have this ambition and they have these brains that like to explore different things, and they just like to think of ideas outside of the box. Like they really like brainstorming, you know, they really like jumping off from ideas and thinking and innovating and stuff like that. And I think the artistic writing style really suits that. It's just like there's something about the writing that is itching my brain in the exact right way, and I'm really loving it. I'm also really liking the story. Like, we've only really just gotten into it because I'm still at the very beginning of this book, but I think the story is really good so far. There is a little bit of a mystery element that is intriguing, and I'm already getting that sense of our two main characters both grappling with different sides of themselves in different ways. I think that's already showing very strongly. Like for one, both of them have these sides to themselves where they want to be successful but also stable in their lives, and they also have a side of themselves, as I mentioned, that's very innovative. They want to think outside the box. They want to just have free reign to explore their passions. So they're both grappling and struggling with like finding balance with that. They're both also kind of on this line between past and present and like yearning for things in the past but like also liking their present life, but then having that inner battle with that because like both of our characters have these unresolved things from their pasts as well. And I think we're gonna see if our characters choose with like deviating from their past lives to kind of separate themselves from their traumatic pasts, or if they're going to try and recreate their past lives but in a new situation to like get those feelings and emotions back. And then also another thing that I didn't expect from this is that Maya, our like wife character, she is actually of both Japanese and American heritage. So there's this whole thing with her and, you know, identifying with her Japanese side and her American side. So there are quite a few parallels of, you know, the theme of our characters choosing between like two sides of themselves, but in very different ways. So I'm really liking this so far. I hope the story continues to go on a good path because so far so good. But I'm only on page 50, so I'm gonna keep reading and see what else happens. But yeah, so far this is like actually beautiful. I really love it so far. Okay, a little further in, I'm like somewhere in between the 2/3 to the halfway point of this now. There are elements of this that are really resembling recursion, specifically like obviously more of the sci-fi parts, just in terms of the type of sci-fi science or like technology or like the things we're exploring with memory and time and all of that, the technology seems very recursion-y, but this one is more about the emotional impacts of the tech, and I feel like recursion was more about the tech itself and more about like, I guess it had like more psychological impacts and more just thriller and mystery and had a bit of a wilder plot, where this one, yeah, just feels like it's taking more of an emotional route. But at the same time, I am also seeing hints of something sinister happening. I'm thinking that the progression of the plot right now seems predictable. Like I can see the hints that are being thrown at us and I feel like I can predict what's going to happen, but maybe those are red herrings. Maybe I will be thrown off. I am unsure. But yeah, there are quite a few similarities to recursion at this point, and I feel like it's just written with a bit of a different tone. And yeah, it's just less about the science, less about the crazy plot, but at the same time, the sciencey bits are actually going over my head more than they did in recursion. I feel like the science of recursion felt more straightforward to me in terms of how it was being explained, and then this one, I feel like the science feels very abstract, and I'm like, I have no idea how any of this is working. But yeah, it's very abstract, and I don't think you have to understand all of it to understand what's going on in the story. But yeah, those bits, I'm just like, yeah, folds, and I'm just, it's going over my head. I don't know. But I am still enjoying the writing. We have actually, interestingly enough, opened up some more POVs, which I find rare in a lit fic, and especially in a lit fic that is not that long. Like this book is just over 300 pages. So it's interesting how we're having multiple POVs, because that just means we are going to be spending less pages with our two main characters, because we are taking some time to explore other secondary characters as well. So I'm curious to see how that will affect the overall impact of the story, but we'll see. We'll keep reading. The writing still is very beautiful. So let's just keep going. This has actually been like an interesting reading experience for me, but I don't know what to think about this book at this point. So I have about 60 to 70 pages left, I'm pretty sure. And it's just so strange because even though this book is very much a literary fiction with just a sci-fi element in it, I can't stop comparing this book to recursion. And I don't know if it's because I haven't read too many sci-fis, but the technology of this and the way we're going back in time is just so similar to how they did it in recursion that I just keep comparing this to recursion, even though it's like a complete different genre of book, takes a complete different trajectory. Just the initial setup is so similar that it's just kind of making my brain glitch a little bit. But yeah, outside of recursion, I feel like I'm still really enjoying the writing. I think Asia Gabel writes really, really beautifully, truly beautifully, definitely knows how to string together a really good sentence, but I'm finding myself getting lost in the pacing of this book. I'm not finding things exciting anymore. Like at the beginning, I was intrigued at the buildup, I was intrigued at like what we were going to do, and at this point in the book, I feel like we're just like, we have a strange mix of things where we have a little bit of a mystery element, but it doesn't feel suspenseful because we're not focusing on the mystery element. And then we have this whole side of the book, which more of the book is focusing on, where we're kind of diving into the past and going back into memories and just like building up our characters from back to front. So the present plot feels like almost an afterthought as I'm reading it. And I feel like there's just a little bit of a disproportionate balance between the two. I think this is going to be a book where like my overall opinion on it will really, really depend on what happens in the end and like what moral lessons we were supposed to get out of this book. It's really hard to tell for me in terms of how I'm gonna rate this book right now. It could go either way. Like it really just depends on where our characters are gonna end up at the end, what lessons have they learned, what growth they have gone through with this experience. So I feel like I just need to read the last 70 pages and find out, because this could be like a 2.5 star or it could be like a 4.25 star. Like really, like I don't think it's a 1 star, I don't think it's a 5 star, it's somewhere in the middle, but I don't know where in the middle it is. There is something that I really like about this one where we were starting to get into the whole idea of remembering things differently, or your memory kind of altering over time depending on what your brain had to take from those moments specifically, like how you can remember a moment so differently than someone else can remember the same moment. moment, and it all really just depends on your state of mind at the time, what you needed as a takeaway from that moment, and then how that can kind of change your experience and your memory, and it can really, really alter over time, and you can remember things very, very differently. I like the exploration into that. But okay, let's finish this book up and see if this book is a 2-star or a 4-star, because I really don't know. Feeling some emotions there. That was a really, really strong emotional section in the book. I really liked that part. I am finished with Lightbreakers now, though. I'm really torn on this one. If I'm going to be completely honest, I feel like there were such strong parts to it that really resonated with me that I found to be so good. But I feel like this is one of those books where we just had too many things going on, because by the end of the book, like even when we were like nearing the final 5 pages of the book, I was like, I feel like we have so many unresolved things that have been unattended to for a very long time. Like we just have not been focusing on those bits, but we still need to wrap these up. And we only have 5 pages left in the book. And then I feel like those things, maybe, I guess, like I think everything did wrap up, but it all happened so quick at the end, and it all happened in honestly a quite unsatisfying way. Like I don't really feel very satisfied. I think with most of the things that were going on in here, I just feel like the wrap up was not very good. But there were so many good elements within this book throughout that I don't know what to think. My favorite part about this book is definitely those deep dives into memory. We had our characters that were not facing their grief, and with the deep dives into memory, they had to confront those. And I think the way that happened, and yeah, the whole thing that I was saying about how people remember things differently, was so well done in this book, so strong. Those were the moments where, you know, that they made me emotional. But I think like everything else that was going on, like the little mystery plot, our present day plot, even the journey with Maya, the wife character, I feel like those parts were just not fleshed out. They did not feel very full at all. And it's almost to the point where I'm like, maybe we didn't really need all of those things. We could have just focused on Noah as a character and him going through his grief, because that was indeed the strongest part of this book. I think I'm going to give this book a 3.75. I think that's what I tend to do when I find a book very just confusing in terms of what I think about them, because there were some parts that were so incredibly strong, and then some parts that just left me just feeling like, I think we needed a little more there. All in all though, I feel like this was a worthy read. I would recommend this book, especially because it is, like, it does feel like quite an unknown book. Wow, what a book though. I'm so glad I read it. It definitely was a little bit of a venture outside of my regular reads. That was Lightbreakers, which now means we're going to dive into Lightbringer. Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. What can I say? You guys have been following me on this journey as I've been reading through the series, and it's just been so incredible. Quick summary, just in case you're new to this channel and you haven't watched any of my other videos as I've been reading through the series. This is book 6 in the Red Rising series. It is part of arc 2 in the series, and it's a sci-fi fantasy where we're set in space. Our main character in the first book, he lives on Mars. Earth has been overpopulated, so humans are, you know, they're spreading to different planets, spreading to Mars, and our society has been split into factions that are based on color. So our main protagonist is a red, and reds are treated as slaves. Essentially, they are miners, and their job is to mine this substance that will allow humans to safely live on Mars. And reds are on the very bottom of the chain. So we have a whole hierarchy. We have like grays, pinks, greens, oranges, and at the top of the scale, we have golds. And golds are just like elite. They are super strong. They are super smart. And so in the first book, Darrow, as our main protagonist, needs to infiltrate the golds. He needs to infiltrate a gold academy and try and take them down. Like, there's a whole rebel force that is on the rise. And so we get into all of these like space wars. The politics in these books are so good. The themes of friendship and also just like addressing your humanity and like tearing down the system. So good overall in the series. I loved the first trilogy. I've been loving the spin-off books, although the spin-off books have been very, very bleak, very dark, very heavy. I have been loving them. We're gonna dive into Lightbringer. I can't believe we're doing this. I can't believe I'm reading 2 Red Rising books in the same month. Look at me go. Anyways, yeah, gonna dive in. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. Just a little 100-page update. I mean, what can I say? I feel like the tensions are already so high in this book. I feel like some of the reveals have already been insane. I feel like some of the things that have happened have already shocked me, and I'm only 100 pages in. This is definitely feeling like a roller coaster of a book. It's giving me Morning Star vibes. I don't know, there's something about this, the chaos of it, that is giving me Morning Star vibes, like the roller coaster of the ups and downs and everything, and it's just so good. Also, Pierce Brown like knows how to start a book. He knows how to write an opening sentence. I'm pretty sure in every single Red Rising book, the first sentences have just hit so hard. The difference between this and Morningstar, though, is that we're now getting so many different point of views. I mean, not even so many. So far, we've only had 2 point of views that we've been switching back and forth, but I feel like just the nature of how Pierce Brown is doing the multi-POV in this series is really, really interesting because your characters are in direct opposition of each other, so you grow to care about the characters you're following because you're seeing their POVs, you're seeing the things they've gone through, you're seeing their struggles and all of that, and there's a part of you that is rooting for everyone, but it's kind of impossible to root for everyone because they're all against each other. So if you root for one of them, you are actually rooting for like another character's downfall. There are just so many of these complex feelings that are going inside as I'm reading this. That's kind of what I mean with the tensions are high, but also just like with all the political maneuverings that have happened, I feel like we're at this point where like the tiniest thing can happen and the needle will drop and, you know, everything will go to chaos. And it's exciting to read, but there are like over 600 pages of this. So I'm like, if the first 100 pages is already this chaotic, what's gonna happen for the rest of this book? Anyways, so far, so good. This experience of reading Lightbringer with watching Olympics in the background has truly been like so stressful and so suspenseful, but kind of in the best way, because I'll be reading, you know, a really suspenseful moment in this book, because this entire book is basically suspenseful and full of exciting moments. So I'll be reading this and I'll be like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, what's gonna happen? And then I turn over to my screen where I'm watching the Olympics, like I'm watching figure skating for the next 2 weeks for the foreseeable future, and then I'll feel the same way, but like in a different way, because I'm gonna be like, oh my god, who's gonna win? Are they gonna fall? Are they gonna do well? Like, what's their score gonna be? It's just like so many different stressors coming from all different sides, but like in the best way possible. Like, it's been so fun. It's definitely been an interesting experience reading alongside watching something, because usually when I read I lock in and I don't focus on anything else. I'm like 100% zoned in, so like this experience of kind of dividing my attention has been interesting. Ooh, the Italians are about to go. I mean, like, this book is so good. What can I say? We're on book 6 now. I feel like I have said everything I have needed to say about this series, like, as I've been reading it along with you guys and reading vlogs, wrap-ups, all of that. I honestly don't know what more to say. I'm just like experiencing this. I'm just taking it in. I've said it before, but this series, especially this arc 2, is really stripping down these epic wars into humanity very well, like stripping it down to the humans, the characters that are in this war, taking out the glory, really showing it as like this horrific experience that it should be shown as. But then at the same time, our characters are so complex. There's so much going on. Even our like characters' personal relationships with each other are so complex at this point because we followed them for like over 10 years at this point. So all of their like bonds and relationships with each other are so complex and so long standing. Like they have such histories with each other that it's making this whole experience so much more complicated to read, but again, in the best way. This is really good so far. I'm at a point in this book where I just like, I'm starting to feel this sense of overwhelming homesickness. If you've read this book, you might know what part I'm at, but like there's, it hurts, but I get why they had to do this, but it's making me feel very homesick for certain characters. Anyways, I've missed like half of this Italian Pairs team's long program at this point, so I need to watch and then read, so bye. Yeah, that's not cool, Pierce Brown. That's not cool. How did people read the end of this book and like, wait, when did this book come out? I don't even know when this book came out. I think it was fairly recently, right? Like 2020, 2023? No. This book can't have come out in 2023. Wait. Oh my God. It did come out. It came out July 25th, 2023. How did people read this book in 2023 and are still waiting for the next book? Well, I'm glad I didn't discover the series until recently because that would have been like the most painful wait for the next book. Oh my goodness. Pierce Brown, why are you so cruel? Literally, why are you so cruel to your readers and why do you do this to us? This was a full 5-star. This was incredible. The emotional journeys, as I was saying, like all of our characters, seeing their bonds with each other and seeing how their relationships with each other change over time, like people with different loyalties, people with like upbringings who might have grown up close to someone but like aren't close to them anymore, or the other way around, like maybe they grew up not very close and then they find, you know, a bond in these hard times. Like, oh my gosh, the roller coasters, the ups and downs of the bonds between our humans are like literally insane. And that the ending. Yeah, this was a full 5-star. It was so good. I think on top of just like the very obvious emotional ride that this book took me on, I think it also felt really cool in a way because to me, this felt the most sci-fi out of all the Red Rising books so far. Like, yes, this is a sci-fi series, but I've always said that these books do read more like fantasies with a sci-fi backdrop in terms of the story structure, in terms of what's happening, in terms of like the things we're trying to battle, the issues we have. They're very much like fantasy world problems. I feel like this one dove a little bit deeper into like the themes that make sci-fi a sci-fi, kind of like questioning humanity, be really like posing that question, you know, of like, if technology went here, if technology allowed us to do these things, like how would that affect society? How would that affect humanity? And I feel like those are all very sci-fi things to think about. We also, I feel like, we're starting to get more callbacks to Earth and like how we've molded our society into like what it is now, and like how it became so far detached from like our society as we know it now on Earth. And we also had like a lot more feeling of that like isolated feeling you get from any type of a space story. Like when you are so far deep into space, you feel very isolated, obviously, because you're so far away from like civilization, from anything else. I feel like we got more of those elements in this book, even though we did see some of that in all the other books. I feel like it was just like more of that in this one, and I found that to be really cool, on top of the just like shattering emotional story that this book was. I do think this is the strongest Red Rising book. I think I can agree with that. I think this is so worthy of the rating. And I know, like, I feel like Goodreads ratings can feel inflated as you continue to read on through a series, because like this is book 6. So by the time any reader has gone up to book 6, usually anyone who would read this book is already a lover of the world and of the series and of the characters and all of that. So there is just a higher chance for books that are so much later on in a series to have a high overall average rating. So I think that really makes sense, but I do think this is so well deserved. Oh my goodness, this was incredible. I'm just gonna be like stalking Pierce Brown now on his like Instagram or like TikTok or wherever else he posts, just to see if he has any updates for us on Red God, because like I need Red God. Oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't have read Lightbringer now, before Red God was even like announced with a date officially, properly and everything. But yeah, that was so good. But that being said, that was a fun little experiment. I do always love reading like the highest rated book and the lowest rated book on my TBR, just to see like how I feel about them, if I feel any differently. I will say Lightbreakers definitely deserves a little bit of a higher rating than it does on Goodreads, in my opinion. I don't think this was the perfect book, but I did get a lot out of it, and I do still recommend reading this book, even though I acknowledge like it wasn't completely perfect for me. I think I got enough out of this book to be able to like determine that this is a worthy read. So I would recommend Lightbreakers by Gabel. I think it is underrated. And then yeah, Lightbringer I do think was the better book out of the two, but I also know that I'm kind of biased towards the series, and it was kind of unfair to begin with because I love this series, you know, like I was going to love this book. But that being said, I am going to leave you guys here for now. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please leave me a like and a comment. If you don't know what to comment down below, let me know what the highest and lowest rated books on your TBR are. I would love to see what is on your TBR and like, yeah, what's the highest and what's the lowest. If you like me, subscribe to that bell thing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!